What's up, guys? Welcome to Dev and the Bear. Today, as much as we love talking about fights and as much as we want to talk about UFC 282, we're mainly just going to focus on the issue of judging, which I don't think many people see as a big shocker there. It being such a huge issue with Bellator and then now the UFC. The one thing in common is Doug Crosby and bad judging.
There's a common denominator somewhere.
There is a common denominator, so at least in there we can find solace and put the blame on Doug Crosby, and we can sleep well at night.
And the reason why we are saying something about Doug Crosby is so Doug Crosby was also the same judge that gave Pat Sabatelli Sabatello. I get fucking dude. I don't give a shit.
He lost. Who cares?
Rafion Stotts won. Let's fucking go.
Yeah.
Sorry. Let me I'll knock like a 12-year-old right now. So, the reason why Sabatello lost the fight. Excuse me, he lost the fight, but Doug Crosby scored it 50-45 for Sabatello. You look at the other judges' cards, they had I think it was a 49-46, I believe.
Yeah.
Something like that. But I just remember this for 50-45 so distinctively because it's like this was a close fight.
That's you giving, because look, a 10-9 round is still a close round.
Yeah.
But to give every single round to one guy when all the other judges saw it a different way and theirs add up with each other, they kind of line up and make sense together.
Yeah.
But yours stands out as the one that saw it differently. It's a little weird, but whatever.
Yeah.
All 5 rounds were 10-9 for one guy, though. I don't know.
Makes no sense to me. So right after Doug Crosby finishes judging this fight, he flies up to the UFC event and ends up being a judge for this card as well, which is not so it's not supposed to happen like that. You can't do that. You don't tell a referee in the NBA, hey, you're gonna ref the Lakers game on Tuesday night at 9 o'clock. Then after that, at 7 o'clock the next day, we're gonna need you over in for the Nets game on the other side of the country. They do not let that happen because there is a lot of mental and physical stress that go on in this. Whenever you're a judge, like it's a tough job. It's a mentally tasking job because these are people's livelihoods. These are people's records that you're dealing with. These are people's paychecks. So there's a lot that rides onto on this occupation, and it's a very stressful job. But to be able to go right to UFC 282 and be like, hey, I was just in Connecticut, but now I'm over here in this other state. I don't recall where the UFC 282 took place at, but I believe it's New York, right?
282?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
It's just to be able to in 24 hours to go from was in Nevada. So you go from Connecticut to Nevada in 24 hours. It doesn't make any sense at all to be able to just fly all the way over there and judge in less than 24 hours. You're judging for what a fight that a lot of people are disagreeing with, and that was the Patty versus Gordon road card. That's what that was. It's just it shouldn't happen. You should always have fresh judges. You should always have fresh refs. You should always be prepared because that's what a legitimate sport does. And after UFC 282 and with this whole gambling situation, with the whole Patty situation, saying something about Ariel and Dana White being there and saying things about Ariel as well. It seems like that we're taking a step back from the legitimacy and the recognition of people that fans of the sport give the sport. And it's a big issue,
Yeah, I think when it comes to judging, it's hard because even if you take out the gambling aspect of it, it's hard because, like you were saying, this is people's careers. And when you have money involved in the sense of they see their fighters as investments, just like a cattle rancher would see cattle.
Yeah.
They look at their cattle and see them as investments. So they want to make sure the ones that are going to sell are healthy and fat and muscular or whatever. So they're going to want to look at these fighters and they want to make sure they're taken care of. Patty is very obviously been taken by the UFC, and I wouldn't be remiss to use the word being groomed by the UFC to be the next poster boy.
Right.
Which I'm very for. I like Paddy Pimblett a lot. I don't, lately, I don't really agree with his choice in words or statements that he's making. he called this fight one-sided and fight of the night. Fight of the night, absolutely not. One-sided, I also very much disagree with. It's a close fight. I don't mind it being up for discussion and people disagreeing, because I do think it was a close fight. You had both guys kind of pushing forward, pushing back, and then on the back foot as well, both fighters. Patty landed a lot of shots on Jared's gloves, which I've seen getting made fun of a lot, but that matters too. Look at Jared's face. If he wasn't landing and the shots didn't matter, then why did Jared's face get so messed up? Because they do matter. Maybe they're not landing clean, but they do matter. So then it comes down to, are you judging fights based off of visible damage, or Astrid, what are you doing? Or are you basing it off of octagon control? Because I don't agree with picking one thing. I think you should judge it off of all of it, which is what we're supposed to be doing. I know that seems obvious, but everyone always picks one thing to argue when one of these things goes wrong. You look at the Jan O'Malley fight, everyone said, well, look at the damage on Jan's face. But Jan had all the control. You look at the GSP and Hendricks fight. People who said Hendricks should have won. Look at the damage. Look at GSP's face. Well, look at Jared Gordon's face. How did Patty win?
Yeah.
Look at Jared Gordon's face. That's what you guys used to say. So then it became the other side where people were like, oh, well, you got the takedowns. That should have won him the fight. Later on, you had Magomed Ankalaev. A lot of people thought he won the fight because of his takedowns. Okay. What about with Jared Gordon? Shouldn't he have won if we're talking about takedowns?
Right. And so I'm not sure if you've seen a recent picture of Jared Gordon, but a lot of people were talking about his face and stuff like that. And like I think Sunday he tweeted a picture and he looks totally fine.
Yeah, because I'm sure it's just some bruising.
Stripes. Yeah,
and
some burns from the gloves. It happens.
Yeah.
So which it does happen because the leather scrapes across your skin if they don't apply the Vaseline very well.
He has a lab coat on, in case y'all are wondering.
And so
he is a scientist. He's credited.
I don't know if y'all know this, but I have a degree from the streets. So yeah.
Don't delegitimize what I just said. Come on, you have a lab coat, a professional one from a business, not the streets.
I didn't steal this from UHCO, but so what's his name? Jared Gordon even said he put out a picture, showed his face, and he wasn't as beat up as everyone thought he was. His face, it just right after a fight, I mean, there's gonna be a little bit of swelling, and he also commented on his nose. He's like, my nose is always that big. So in case y'all want to know or anything, so the third round, there's no argument there. Jared Gordon won that round. So, and we'll get into like the comments after that as well. But first, like, I think Jared Gordon won that first round. I think he won that first round and third round I give to Jared Gordon. The second round was all Patty. I think Gordon fell too much in love with finding that left hook, trying to find a home for it and knock him out. And it's but Patty he found his rhythm. He wasn't out of the fight at that point, I mean, even if you look at taking the numbers into account, right? So if you're going based off of numbers, Jared Gordon landed more in the first round than Patty. I think he landed 5 more. I think it was 22-17. They actually posted it during the fight.
Yeah.
It's hard I can't if y'all have anywhere I could find the exact punch counter for each round.
Round for round. I always have trouble finding that.
I can't find the round for round anywhere, and it's really, really annoying. And what makes it even more annoying is whenever they show significant strikes, because it's like, no, that doesn't answer my question.
Yeah. What about total?
Yeah, I need a total of strikes. I need the head.
You want both significant and total.
So like the upside to that as well, though, which I will point out, because if you go to the total of the Patty versus Jared fight, if you go to the totals, right, Jared Gordon had better numbers in every category except for significant strikes. But if you go to total strikes, he has more total strikes. But yeah, Patty has more punches to the head. Jared has more kicks to the leg, and so it goes back and forth because this is not a boxing match. This is an MMA match, you know. And so that's also like another great point is like, I don't think boxing scoring works for MMA at all. It doesn't, boxing is scored at a 10-point system. I don't think MMA should be scored at a 10-point system at all, because then now it's like, there's too many aspects to MMA that you have to consider. You have to consider the stand up, the clinch, and the groundwork. Also kicks are, it's not even just when it comes to stand up, it's also kicks. You got kick, you have a lot of body kicks, you have leg kicks, all that stuff.
Because you can find evidence or at least anecdotes with this using Rob Font and Cheeto Vera. the numbers were all in favor of Rob Font winning that fight. But if you watch the fight, you understand that he didn't win that fight. Chito Vera won that fight. He did enough to convince the judges that even though he didn't have enough strikes, he won that fight, because he was being a complete martial artist in the cage versus just throwing punches. And that's what Rob Font was doing. He was focused on his boxing, focused on landing punches. But when you do that, you look restricted. So maybe that's what the issue was with Patty. I don't know. But definitively, we agree that third and second round was Gordon and Patty.
Right.
The first round is the one that comes in question, even with the judges, because I think 2 judges gave it to Patty and 1 judge gave it to Gordon. So that's the one that gets disagreed on in the scorecards from the judges as well.
Yeah, and so just for me personally, I just felt that first round, and I like Paddy Pimblett. I do. I think he's a fun fighter. I think he's a fun personality. I have no issue at all with Paddy Pimblett. Before anybody is to say that, oh, you just hate whenever they try to push this new guy, y'all are just a bunch of fucking haters. And it's like, no, dude, eat a dick. All right, I think he's a fun fighter. Do I think he's ready for the top 15 after that fight? No, I do not. But Jared Gordon he's a different type of fighter. Like, to give you an idea of how tough it is to break into the top 15 of the lightweight division. Like, Jared Gordon is probably your toughest unranked fight. If not is the toughest one, is definitely one of them. But I definitely I felt that Gordon did enough to win that first round. He landed the better shots. I know that there was a cut from an elbow whenever they went to the ground at the end of the first. But I mean, that was like towards the end of the first round as well. You look at the round as a whole, I felt that Gordon was doing more damage everywhere. He was landing the better shots. Patty just seemed to be not fully like in the zone yet. And then so that's why that second round I gave it to Patty, because he was able to understand what Gordon was trying to do, and they were both evenly on the back foot in the second round as well. If it felt
first
that
round or second,
to go to the second round, I felt that
okay,
I felt Gordon was pushing the pace more in the first round. I felt Patty.
Let me ask you this: so our issue, the people's issue, is with Doug Crosby, right?
Right.
Whoever has an issue, Doug Crosby is the issue, right?
Right.
So he had 10-9 first round for Patty, 10-9 for second round for Patty, and then 9-10 for Gordon. Would you say that is debatable? Sure, but would you say that's there should be outroar for that scorecard saying 10-9 the first round for Patty?
Right.
Do you think that that's crazy, or do you think it's like you just disagree with it? Because I understand disagreeing with it.
I disagree with it.
Do you think it's crazy though?
What's that? He has a scorecard like that?
No, but that Patty, he said Patty won that first round.
I think it's a little out there.
I don't. I think it was a close first round.
Yeah.
Both guys were doing things.
I think Jared was doing a lot more.
Well, you think that. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
But do you think it's crazy for someone to think the other way?
I don't know. I feel like crazy is a strong word to use, but it's also like.
But if someone said, yeah, I think Patty won that first round because he was pushing just as much as Jared was, I don't know. Yeah. I feel it was close. Yeah. Would you disagree with that a whole lot, or would you go, yeah, okay, I think Gordon won the first round, but I get what you're saying?
I mean, that's a good question.
Because here's my point. Point. I don't think that's a crazy thing to say, but you know what I do think is crazy? Chris Lee gave Paddy Pimblett the third round. How crazy is that?
Or are we talking about
and
that?
We're not talking about that. We're talking about Doug Crosby and his ridiculous 50-45 card.
Yeah.
But we're not talking about Chris Lee over here saying Paddy Pimblett won the third round. Because if he gives that to Jared Gordon, the result is very different.
This is off topic real quick. Do you know Ariel Helwani said that Doug Crosby like cornered him in New York City and telling him, like, talking shit to him and saying, like, you're completely delegitimizing who I am and what I do because of things you say on your show, and like was trying to get physical with him about it.
Ariel's a good journalist. That's bound to happen.
Yeah, and so I just think it's funny that same referee though is like
yeah. But so yeah, is it crazy that the first round was close? No, I think that's a valid statement. It was a close first round. Both guys were striking. Both guys were landing. I do think that Jared's strikes were landing cleaner. As far as what my personal opinion is, I think Gordon won the fight first and third round, just like you. But I do think that first round was close, so I'm not upset that Patty won. I don't know if that's because I'm biased and I like Patty. I don't know, but whatever. But I do think it's crazy that Chris Lee gave Paddy Pimblett the third round. I don't think that makes any
That makes no
sense.
sense at all, though.
And I think that that's not being talked about enough.
Yeah, we're just talking about the whole Doug Crosby situation,
Yeah.
which is I feel like that's because it's so much more outlandish than the fucking
The 50-45?
the 50-45 and flying out to Nevada and then
Well,
scoring
yeah,
a fight,
I think it's weird, but you look at his judging for this fight and it's not that crazy. He gave the round that definitively was won by Jared Gordon to Jared,
right?
and he gave the round that was definitively won by Paddy Pimblett by Paddy.
Yeah,
Or to Paddy. The first round is the one that is close and everybody disagrees on, and I think that makes sense. But giving the third round to someone who obviously didn't win it doesn't make sense to me.
right. And so, I don't know. So I do. Well, one of the things also though is because of the whole Bellator fight with Rafael Stotts and Pat Sabatello. So that fight. So now the head of the Mohegan Commission is actually going to be getting those three judges and having them all together, having them rewatch the fight and rescore the fight for him to see and be like, why did you score it?
And
this
they're
much?
discussing it with with themselves
Yeah.
and him, and still throwing an investigation into Doug Crosby.
Do it. Fuck that guy, man.
Well, they are doing it.
Yeah, I'm all for it because of the fact that, like, dude, the amount of I can't sit here and name every little thing that he's done, but he there's to tell you that the amount of sketchy
In
things
one weekend.
yeah, like in just one in one weekend, but to go through his past as well.
Yeah,
though,
I'm just
like,
saying you only need one weekend.
yeah, to be
And
like,
this
hey,
one
that's not
weekend where
right.
he messed up a lot.
But
It's weird.
if you go back and then you go to like he has a huge issue with a lot of Ray Longo guys. It's really crazy if you go back and look at the fights that
Is
he's
Jared
judged.
Gordon a Ray Longo guy?
No, he's not.
Oh, okay.
And so he has a lot of issues with the Ray Longo guys. And so I don't know. Eric Hawani actually did a really good piece, like just breaking every little thing down that he's done. That's like that's not right. That's what the hell's going on here, you know? I highly recommend checking that out. I mean, I don't know, man, but it is what it is. What can we do about it? Because Dana White openly comes out there and then after that starts shitting on Jared Gordon, saying that, you know, he went out there and he coasted that third round to try to get a takedown. And I think that they saw that it was 1-1 and then they told him, hey, you need to go out there and
So that's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
And that ties into what we can talk about next, which is pretty cool segueing by Zach. So Dana White notoriously doesn't like takedowns late in fights.
Right.
We know that.
That's Brendan Loughnane.
Brendan Loughnane, yeah. So Chris Lee gave that third round to Paddy Pimblett. Doesn't make sense. There's a takedown late in the round. Magomed and Jan's fight. Magomed, a lot of people felt he should have won that fight, but it became a draw because one judge gave it to Jan, one ref gave it to Magomed, and Sal Diamato gave it a draw. So it became a split draw. Everyone thinks Magomed should have won that fight. I think that it's right as down the middle as you could possibly be in a fight. And we can get to that in a minute. But for now, what I want to say is Dana White notoriously doesn't like takedowns late in the fights. Magomed had takedowns late in the fights. Why didn't he win that fight?
Right.
Chris Lee gave that round to Paddy Pimblett when Jared Gordon got the takedowns, and that was the whole round. Did Dana White have something to do with it? Was he approaching judges? Maybe.
Do you feel that way?
I don't know. I don't feel any way. I'm asking the questions.
Oh.
I don't feel any kind of way. I'm just curious if anyone else does.
One of the things I completely disagree with Dana on, and I think it's actually really shitty of a president of a company to do, is to go out there and openly say that fight was absolute dog shit, you know?
Yeah, I don't think that's fair. That goes into kind of a professionalism thing. But
yeah, that was not a boring fight at all. I mean, I'm sure I will give you the fifth round was pretty boring.
Yeah,
but,
so let's give our breakdowns of the fight.
So first round, very back and forth, but I feel that Jan is evading most of Magomed's punches, but he's able to get out of the way. He's using some good kickboxing, mixing it up. You know, head strikes, body strikes, leg strikes.
Yeah,
you know,
I agree.
And so that's how I felt. But I also do think that Magomed is also landing good strikes himself. He had an answer for everything that. He had an action for every one of Jan's reactions. So very close round. But I gave it to Jan. I felt that Jan won that round. And it could be a little bit of bias on my side. If Magomed won that round, if all three judges had for him, I wouldn't be mad at it. Second round, I clearly gave that round to Jan. He hurt his legs really really bad twice. Like I mean, he made Magomed stumble. In other sports, like you look at kickboxing, that's considered almost. I mean, if Magomed would have like went down to his hands and knees, that's considered a standing 8 count right there. You know, so right there, I give that round to Jan. I think Jan clearly won the second round. Third
Yeah.
round, this is where things get really really fucking weird because Jan's mixing it up, doing this thing, and then he hurts his legs again, and then I would say probably about 2 minutes, a little over 2 minutes into the third round, left into the third round. Magomed goes for the clinch, gets the clinch, and finally, I think late in like probably like a minute 30, he finally gets a takedown. And Jan's fighting back. He's doing what he can. He's not able to get back to his feet because Magomed has great takedown offense. He's good on top. And so that right there is like, that's how do you score that round
Yeah.
now? It
Because
gets,
that one is almost exactly down the middle. The
yeah,
third round, the middle round is as middle of the road as you can be.
yeah,
Jan was winning on the feet, but halfway through the round, Magomed starts taking control, and Jan is no longer doing as much.
right, right. So now it's a little out there, and so
You go to that fourth round,
yeah,
and Magomed is controlling the entire fight again. And then the fifth round is more of the same, much more of the same. Jan, his best move is pivoting his hips over and getting his back against the cage.
yeah,
That was his best move. The two judges gave it a 10-8, one judge gave it a 10-9, the fifth round. And I think that's kind of what trips people up. Is I don't like 10-8s. It's frustrating because it's hard to decide, was Jan not doing enough when he was trying. He was trying that whole time. It wasn't much, but it's what he had left in the tank.
And it was dominant last round.
It was a very dominant.
Yeah. The ref was close to stopping that fight. He told him, "It's like, you need to do something or I'm going to stop it." And then that's whenever it became like, okay, he's still dominant, but Jan's not out of the fight anymore after he was.
Yeah, he started grabbing his hand and trying to tie up Magomed's left arm, which was the one punching him.
So I agree that round right there was a 10-8. I do. I feel like that round was a 10-8. What's his name? Jan just had no answer for anything. And so if you were to look at the scorecards,
what constitutes a 10-8?
A 10-8, I think domination, damage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so let me try to think of a fight.
So me and Zach were talking the other day while we're watching the fights, and we always try to text during these fights if we're not able to watch them together, and we're always going back and forth about what's this, what's that, how's this, and John Anik and DC took a judging class to understand judging. So that's why I know that people get really really mad at what's his name, DC, for being biased. But whenever it's not one of his guys fighting, listen, because especially to John Anik. John Anik is very very well spoken.
Big fan of John Anik.
He's fucking great, man. Like, he really is.
I have been for a while, but I wasn't at first.
Yeah,
big fan of him.
And so they took they took a judging class to fully understand MMA judging. And so when they're questioning the judging, it's because John Anik takes his job very serious. And so when he's given an opportunity to learn more about the sport, he's going to take it serious because he's respected by a lot of fighters for a reason. So the 3Ds that they said are what dictates who went around and write this shit down, remember it. I don't give a fuck what you do. Just remember this shit. And it's dominance, duration, and damage. So those three aspects are what wins you around, right? And you look at Magomed on Clive in that fifth round, and he had all three of those, especially the duration part. I mean, it seemed like
duration, absolutely.
Yeah, and so damage. I mean, there was some damage. I would say damage is there. Domination. It was like, I won't say he was extremely dominant, but he was.
You did say that earlier. You didn't use the word extremely, but that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Define dominance.
I'm pulling a DC right now, man. Calm down.
Was he dominant enough for a 10-8? You're saying yes.
Yeah.
Jan was trying.
Right.
He was able to get a hip escape at some point to a different position. Not what he wanted, but he was trying.
Yeah.
I think dominance is when they don't even get to try.
Yeah. And so we'll just go based off of duration and damage then. And I feel like Magomed, hits 2 out of the 3 checkpoints for that, And I mean, he had 11 minutes control time. And so you take that into account, and most of that was that fifth round. And so I think a 10-8 is I agree with the 10-8 for that round. So if you were to make that a 10-8 on one judge's scorecards, right? So you go down to Mike Bell's scorecards. He scored at 48-47 for Blachowicz. If you were to make that a 10-8 round, then it would be a 48-40. It would be a 47-40-48. Wait, yeah, 47-47. It would be a draw on his scorecard as well.
Yeah.
And so if you were to do that, and so every other judge had a 10-8. So if you were to do that, I mean, it's just, I don't know, it's crazy as shit.
It's
when you
hard.
think about it.
So, okay, so you were talking about 10-8s and dominance. The way GSP dominated Nick Diaz,
Right.
extreme dominance, right?
Yeah.
10-8s?
I don't know the judges' scorecards on that card.
I do.
Yeah.
What do
I know
you
you
think?
do.
I'm not asking about what you think the judge's scorecard was. Do you think it's a 10-8?
I feel like it should be. It should have been.
No 10-8s.
Yeah.
No one gave a 10-8.
I was gonna say, I mean,
completely dominant.
Yeah.
By GSP.
Right.
But because Nick Diaz was trying, I think 10-9.
Right.
Jan was trying. So I think 10-9.
Yeah.
That's my own personal thoughts. This stuff doesn't matter.
But like, so if you take that, right? So Nick's trying and they're scrambling. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I know you hate that shit, but
oops.
So if you take the dominance right there. So while GSP was dominant in the sense of like he was keeping top position, anywhere Nick was rolling on the ground, GSP was right on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
How long you look at the positions that Magomed had Jan in, right?
He had one position.
One position, right?
And as soon as Jan tried to get out, and he did,
yeah,
he got his back to the cage, which is the first step in getting out.
You're right.
And then he couldn't do much else after that.
Right.
But he was trying.
Okay. So would you say that, okay, so he did that, but it was like, how long did they say in the half guard position?
Oh, duration I already gave you. I already gave you duration.
Yeah.
It was domination that I'm questioning.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying GSP is the pinnacle of dominance, especially in that Diaz fight, because no matter what Diaz did, no matter where he went, he never escaped. He was always in a dominant. GSP was always in a dominant position. So is Magomed. Right. And what I'm saying is I agree. Those should be 10-9 rounds, GSP and Nick Diaz. I also agree that should be a 10-9 round because Jan was trying. At no point was he just laying there taking it. He was trying to hold up on Magomed's arm, and he was trying to move his hips.
Right. So I mean, it's a hard one, but like 10-8, I don't disagree with it though. I really don't. I think a 10-8 is fair. I do. I know you keep.
But why?
I think because of the fact when I look at how long they were in that position as well, though he was in that position for a while.
So you think duration?
I would say duration
defines dominance.
I mean that's how yeah. So sorry, man. I mean, you asked me these deep.
It's tricky.
You asked me these deep questions, and
the
I'm like,
point of all of this is that it's tricky.
Yeah, it is tricky as fuck, and that's why I'm like, hey, dude, ask me this shit off air. Like,
when it comes to the Jan and Magomed fight, I think a draw is the only correct answer. So whatever way it comes, it's the only correct answer because that fight, 2.5 rounds to Jan, 2.5 rounds to Magomed. What are you supposed to do with that third round? It's hard. Right. And then the last round being 10-8s, it ended up in a draw. I think that's the only correct result.
It's hard. It's
frustrating.
It is,
but I think especially I'm happy with it
when you consider the one guy who scored it a draw, and it was Sal Diamato.
Sal Diamato, who is notorious for being piss poor judging.
Yeah, but to say that he's wrong for what he did, it's like, man, is he really wrong?
Because he's the only one who had it a legitimate draw. The other two judges gave it to someone.
So if you with the round 5 though, how would you have scored it personally?
10-9 for Magomed.
Yeah,
because I would look at Jan and be like, he's still in the fight. If there was another round, he could get back up and keep fighting. But there's not another round.
Did you agree?
But that doesn't mean it should be a 10-8. So to me.
So the Max Holloway Calvin Kattar fight, right? In the 4th round, it was a 10-7. Do you agree that was a 10-7?
Man, that fight's hard to remember by round.
Yeah.
I'd have to go back and watch it.
You just remember
I just remember the whole fight.
The Matrix?
Yeah. That's all I remember.
So, I mean, you look at that and it's like, okay, but I think a 10-8 is right because of the fact that I think a 10-8 is correct because the fact that fucking what's his name, Magomedov. Dude, we gotta give these guys fucking nicknames, man.
That's why I'm using their first names. It's Magomed
Yeah,
and
yeah,
Jan.
yeah. So MAGA, we'll call him MAGA because that's what his friends call him.
Yeah, don't get mad at us.
Actually, shit, let's not use MAGA. So I didn't realize it till after I said it, but so we'll call him. I don't know, man. We'll call him Anki. So Anki was like, gee, that sounds worse too. Jesus.
Ankalaev. Just
Yeah.
say Magomed. It's
I don't
okay.
know. I'm having fun right now though, but it's because all those are like offensive terms. What's it called? So Magomed. So Magomed, like he's just that whole fifth round was just him being on top. And I don't know. Like I just feel like that round was a 10 or a round. I'm gonna keep talking in circles about this.
Well, since you're gonna keep talking to Stars, just another fun thing to bring up: Cruz and Garbrandt, Max Holloway and Cater. That's one of the that's one of the best performances by any fighter of all time.
Yeah.
But to me, what makes number one is Cody Garbrandt, his fight against Dominic Cruz. That is the number one performance by a fighter of all time to me. Only two judges gave out 10-8 score each. The rest was 10-9.
We need to get a video editor, like somebody who's somebody who loves the sport and wants to just like take off with us, you know, not take off, but grow our
brand,
grow the brand.
Yeah,
because it would just make shit just a little easier, right? To sit here and be like, okay, people are listening to us talk about this. So if for anybody out there who likes video editing, and likes to do it, has a passion and doesn't mind doing it for free, get at us, because I mean I think it would be.
But yeah, so only one round was deemed a 10-8 by two judges.
Okay.
In that fight, and that is to me that is the greatest performance of all time. And I would have done 10-9 on all those rounds too, because Dominic Cruz never gave up. He was there in Cody's face as much as he could be, which wasn't much, but he was still trying. I think that to me that's what constitutes a 10-8 is the fighter just couldn't do anything anymore, and he was getting controlled. He wasn't, seemingly unconscious, but he wasn't physically there in the fight. Almost not, or I shouldn't say physically, but to me that's a 10-8. A 10-7, I don't think there should ever be a 10-7. If there's a 10-7, maybe you should have stopped the fight.
Yeah, I mean that's like close, like dude, like that's
what I'm saying. That's eyebrow raising stuff, right
it's
there.
Like holy fuck, they put
to the ref. I'm like, these judges saw a 10-7 and you didn't stop the fight. What's wrong with you?
Yeah, man. That was a really...
but they stopped Volk from dominating and destroying Korean Zombie.
I think it was the same. Was it the same ref?
Herb Dean?
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't
remember, but
yeah, so to me a 10-7 fight should have been stopped. That's what that is. The ref wasn't doing his job. A 10-8 is a very, very dominant round where the other fighter basically just gave up and let the other fighter win that round. 10-9 every time.
And like for also though, on top of like
it even rhymes.
On top of all this though, is just like the way, like we can talk about this shit for hours because there's no answer to what we're talking about, and that's what makes it also frustrating. I know it makes it especially frustrating for you.
Well, like, no, we do have the answer. Don't do 10-point system,
right? So
because I agree with that. I think you're right that it shouldn't be the system that MMA uses.
I will.
I also think you could combine that with what One FC does and judge the whole fight, not the round. Because if you do round for round, it's hard because you look at the third round of Magomed and Jan. How do you score that? It's so hard.
Right.
But if you look at the entire fight, who won that fight? It's just as hard. So we should probably pick a different example.
it's
Paddy Pimblett and Jared Gordon would be a better example.
How would you feel
who won that fight as a whole? I think Jared Gordon.
So like, but also that's why open scoring would absolutely change the sport. I think for the better. But I mean, that's just, it's all plausible things, I don't
hypothetical.
It's
all it's all hypothetical until something gets put into action.
We don't know if that would actually help the sport. We think it would, but we don't know that. We thought making a day before, having weigh-ins happen Friday morning instead of Friday afternoon would be better for these fighters, but fighters are still missing weight all the fucking time.
We thought CM Punk could go in there and win fights.
I did it. But so I mean, there's a lot of questions with that, though, man. I mean, I could go on about this stuff, but like, whenever you look at the legitimacy of the sport and you take into account what's happening with the whole James Cross situation, and you take into like these events, like these three events, I think after, like, so to name them all, the whole James Cross betting situation. Um, so, and there's no wrongdoing that James Cross has done yet. What he's done. So we're not gonna sit here and say that he's done something terrible. We don't know that yet. There's an investigation going on, federal investigation on top of that. So, um, I mean, there's that. Then you take into account what happened on Patty's podcast with him and Dana saying stuff about Ariel Hawani. Ariel Hawani calls him out on that, and it was like,
Yeah,
yeah, no,
I definitely urge anybody to go look up Ariel Hawani's response to Petty Pimblett.
I listened to the whole thing.
It was pretty solid.
Yeah, and like he starts naming things, pinpoint, starts pulling up text, which is, I mean, I know that's kind of a rat thing to do,
No, but
but
yeah, I mean,
you do it to a journalist, what do you expect?
when you save receipts of
Yeah.
conversations with people, that's the only reason you could possibly be doing that, and
Yeah.
that's not cool. But nobody knows more than the nose.
Yeah, the nose knows, man. And so, what's his name? So that whole situation comes out, and I mean, which makes Patty look like an asshole because you
Yeah.
take into and you look at the aspects that Patty, has talked about. I don't know if we could say without getting flagged, but we'll just say unaliving. And without he talks about his foundation with that is to help men that are dealing with those issues and dealing with depression and with these mental illnesses. And so then you see that he started an anti-bullying campaign, and then goes on his podcast and absolutely shits on Ariel Hawani, calling him a piece of shit, calling him a rat, and all these names. And so it's like, what do you stand for if you're
Yeah.
gonna sit there and openly shit on this guy who's been preaching about how great you are before you
And
were in the UFC?
when he was asked about it, his response was, while slamming down a slice of pizza, he was like, "Honestly, I don't give a bleep." A little expletive.
And you should
Again, a
give
video editor would be cool.
Yeah.
But it's like, oh, you don't care? You don't care that you were just tossing this man's name around, calling him names, saying things to him that were pretty offensive.
Yeah.
I thought you did care about that stuff.
Yeah.
Specifically when it came to men. I
Yeah.
thought you did care.
And it's like, I don't know. I mean, at some point, I understand if you're gonna say you don't, give a fuck, but you need to give a fuck about your image. You need to give a fuck about what you're representing, And if you're gonna represent these things about men's health and about anti-bullying, you're bullying somebody online. Like, people are out here, ending their lives over this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so I don't think Arahwani will do that, but I hope not. I don't know what's going through his head. But I mean, you have to assume the worst because of where people stand now. People, deal with things inside. People don't talk about things. And so I think that's just like, I don't know, man. Like, it's fucking just terrible for the sport. And
the
then
thing
third
is,
thing,
oh, there's a third thing. Sorry.
the third thing, I'm fucking rambling. I know. I've been, like I told you before, I texted Zach and I told him, I was like, I am still fucking mad. Like, I've never been this tense after a card before. And the third thing is the way that UFC 282 ended, with the co-main event and the main event. It's just like, those three things, like, I've seen, like, I go through I look at the internet MMA community, and at this point, they're just like, I'm done with the UFC. Like, this is everything has led up to the end of this card, like, throughout the week. It's like, I'm frustrated with it. And people are saying, like, I think people are making accusations that there are rigged fights that happen. I don't think there are rigged fights, but I don't know that. There's just with that, it makes it hard to stand up for the UFC and see their point of view on things whenever you have your president that just says, I don't need to explain anything to anybody. And it's like, why are you doing a press conference then? Go home.
Yeah. I don't care about the MMA community. I don't care about the internet. I care about fights and the sport.
Right.
Because that's what I care about. I don't go to these events to watch a bunch of people get together in a forum and talk about things. I like to do that. It's fun. But at the end of the day, that's not what I want to see. So I don't, and also when it comes to the UFC, they're the reason the UFC is what it is. I quit liking the UFC a long time ago.
Right.
I like ONE FC. I like Bellator. Heck, I like Eagle FC.
Do you?
I wish why aren't we doing video for this one?
I'm an idiot. That's why.
So yeah, I like other organizations more than I like the UFC. The
I
UFC is the WWE now,
yeah.
and my dad's always told me that, but I don't think in that way. What I think, the UFC is just money hungry. Everything's about money. Everything's about what sells.
Yeah.
Has it always been like that? Maybe to a degree, sure, but I think it used to be more about the sport than it is now. And like I said at the beginning of this little rant, I watch it for the sport. I watch it for fighting. I don't
Yeah.
watch it for the popular fighters or for Dana White or the UFC
Yeah.
or the fans. I don't care about the fans. Oh, it's a spectator sport. Yeah, but it's also fighting. The spectators aren't in there fighting. The fighters are. So let the fighters do what they're going to do. And if you don't like it, just go away. The only time we shouldn't like it is when they're not fighting. Takedowns and ground and pound or ground control is fighting. Standing in front of each other,
Yeah.
staring at each other is not. You can boo one, don't boo the
And
other.
that's where it's the hard thing though, is everybody also, like, I feel like 80% of MMA fans also say like, oh man, I love this shit, I love this sport, and then the second there's a takedown, they're just like,
People were booing Magomed,
yeah,
and I was like, "Are you serious?
what do you want him to do? Like, the
Yeah,
motherfucker had no
he can
legs.
barely stand. You
Yeah,
want him to keep? You want him to risk winning the title, which is what he's undefeated before this,
18 and
right?
1
18-1
before.
Oh,
Yeah.
because of Kutalaba.
Yeah, no,
Who was
fuck
it?
no.
Who was it?
It was Paul Craig.
Oh, Kutalaba lost those fights. I was thinking the other round.
Yeah.
Paul Craig. Okay, right. But anyway, yeah. So you want him to throw caution to the wind, screw his health, screw all he's worked for, his career, and just go for it.
And that's why
against Jan Blachowicz,
Yeah.
the Polish power.
That's why
You're an idiot.
I've never given fighters say don't leave it. People say don't leave it in the hands of the judges. It's like,
Yeah.
what do you want them to do? Like, it's like, there are some people that will say that, and it's like, it's easy for you to say, but there are most people that say that shit. It's like, you don't know how hard this is to go in there and do that.
You
like,
don't just go in there and finish the guy.
Yeah.
It's never
Why
that
don't
simple.
you go in there and spar a guy of your caliber and tell me how easy it was to go in there and knock that dude out?
Judges have a job. The fighters went out there and did theirs. Now it's time for the judges to do theirs. When you say you shouldn't have left it in the hands of the judges, you are now acquitting of the judges of their responsibility to do their job. They no longer have to do their job because, well, you shouldn't expect them to be capable of it. Like, well, no, I should. And that's why they're there. Because if I went to my job completely incapable of doing it, I'd be fired and I wouldn't have a job.
Yeah.
These guys get to keep coming back. And that's inexcusable to me.
Yeah, you have a point. You gotta. That's a great thing. It's a great thing to say. But
clip it.
And so, I mean, it's just, I don't know, man. I mean, we've seen it. We've seen the turn of the tides with judging as recently we saw with Hayden Bryars.
Yeah.
And that was locally, and that was hard to see because that's our boy. But now we're seeing it's even worse. We saw, the other one that comes to mind is Dustin Jacoby, Khalil Roundtree fight. And so just to end the year like this with the last pay-per-view, it's I don't know, man. I love this sport.
You know why?
I will always,
why? It's because we had to pay for it.
Yeah.
All the free cards have been great.
Yeah.
We had to pay for this one, so we should have known.
Like, it's just, there's that as well. But like, I will always love this sport. I love this. Like, I have such a strong passion for this sport. I mean, I know I don't train it, but like, I will always love it as a spectator and respect the people who are involved in it. But to see the sport end like this at the end of the year, it's just like, how do you want me to keep being a fan of this shit, man? Because there's nothing going on with this, like, and that's why I feel like there needs to be a unified rule set, which actually is a whole different like topic I want to discuss in another video.
Yeah, we're at 43 minutes.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, man, that's just kind of how I felt with those two fights. I mean, besides that, I mean, there were some great fights though. Everything was a finish until the last two fights.
I think the prelims were fantastic.
They're fun.
And then the way that John Anik opened up the main card was, what we always say, prelims are great, but main cards are better. And I'm like, ooh, I don't agree with that.
I think we texted each other when he said that too.
You did? We did? Okay, yeah. I didn't agree with that. I was like, don't say that, John, because that's just not true.
Yeah.
I get it. You're trying to build up this pay-per-view. But don't say that, because I don't think that's true.
Dude, you could literally go down like the list and you can just like talk about all these fights. Like Dana White gave everybody who got a finish $50,000. Santiago Ponzinibbio comes back from behind, down 2 rounds really against solid. Alex Morano, which I wanted Alex to win really bad. But I mean, it was a tough fight. It was a tough loss for him, but I was happy to see it because it was a great fight. Dricus du Plessis, and it's like,
Dude, I'm such a big fan of his,
yeah,
and I wasn't sure if Till was going to go out there and get a win, but man, Drakus is so freaking good.
I didn't think he was, just because I don't
You didn't
know.
think Drakus Duplessis
No,
was good?
no, Darren Till.
Oh, okay, okay.
I thought Jerkis was gonna absolutely bulldoze him, and I mean, he almost the first round, yes,
Yeah.
yeah, they almost upped the fight, and he keeps saying, "I'm good," and it's like, well, you're getting punched in the face. It was 60-0 at one point, and it's like you gotta do something else, man. You can't just keep saying I'm good. It's hard to be a Darren Till fan, and it's like I think he's a funny guy. I think he has a great mindset for the sport, but when you put on performances, like the second round was a great second round, but it's like he doesn't know how to do anything else but strike.
Go be a boxer. You'll be a great boxer.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. I think be a much better kickboxer too. But it's hard to be a
Put him
Darren Till
against
fan.
Dustin Jacoby.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think he wins that.
No, I don't. But they're also different weight classes. So
Kinda.
it's a hard fight, but man, like I don't know, like it's really it's because like Darren Till is he hasn't
Alex
improved
Pena.
anything about his game. Like
Yeah,
you know,
he's been a boxer since he's gotten into
you know what's
MMA.
crazy? Him and Tyron Woodley now at this point are both 1-5 since the last time they fought.
Yikes.
Yeah, to put things in perspective as well. Ilya Taporia, fucking phenomenal in performance.
Yeah.
Give him Patty. Why not? They hate each other. They fucking hate each other.
Yeah, and obviously Patty's their boy. I know Luke Thomas and them on whatever the heck show he's on.
Morning
saying,
Combat.
I don't remember if it was that one or another one.
Mm-hmm.
It was, I saw his face and
Mm-hmm.
he was saying that Taporia beats Patty every time, and I was like,
I think he does too.
It's hard to disagree with this last fight.
Yeah,
but I'm not ready to count Patty out.
that's the hard part. Yeah,
I think that's a little silly.
Yeah,
I think we're jumping the gun there. Is he ready for a top 10 guy? Maybe not. Is everyone just going to steamroll him now? No. I don't get this big pivot everybody's having on Patty because of this.
yeah. Like I get what you're saying for sure. I can't remember the name of the guy from it's on the MMA Hour, but he openly said as well, like he was like, you know, we're not seeing Patty. He's like, we saw Patty grow when he fought in Cage
Yeah.
Fury. He's like, that's the fighter that we didn't see in the UFC yet because he was growing. He's like, he's a full grown fighter now, and he was like, and I don't think he's ready for top 15. And so
I was hoping
feel
he
like
was,
it's a little
but
out
yeah,
there,
I agree
you know?
he's not.
And so it's a little out there to say, but I don't think I think he's right though. But you know, considering he's 27 and we waited for him to grow in the sport, I mean, this is the fighter he is the fighter he might stay at. And you know, is he because like he fully believes he's never gonna get knocked out. Is he ever gonna pick his hands up? What's it gonna take for that to happen?
I think that would change a lot of things if he just picked his hands up.
But
What I will say is this. We watched him grow with the competition he was fighting.
yeah,
Now he's fighting better competition. Will he still grow is the question. I would like to see him grow,
yeah.
but I get what you're saying. Will he? It's kind of late, so will he?
Yeah.
But if it's as simple as something as just picking up your hands and instead of striking like a wild man, be a little bit more technical,
Yeah,
that could happen. That's not a biological thing. That's just learning.
yeah, it's part of the sport. Raul Rosas Jr. fucking dominant
Dude.
17 years old. Look what that guy's
18.
doing. 18 now. So he's gonna buy his mom a minivan. That was my favorite thing that he said.
It's hard not to get behind him.
Yeah, I mean it's you know, as somebody who's watched the sport, both of us who watched the sport for a long time, we see young guys come in here and you know, once they face real competition, things change. And I don't hope that for this guy though. I hope he stays. I hope he stays doing what he does until he's up there. I mean, I really like Raul Rosas Jr. He's got a great attitude, loves the sport, and it's obvious that he loves the sport. I hope nothing but the best for the kid. I hope he keeps just going as high as he can go. You know, Jorginho Rosenstruck, he's no longer Frozenstruck, so
I hope so. I think he was just like, you know what?
I'm better than this guy.
When Francis was told he had to fight me, he said I shouldn't be fighting him, but whatever.
Yeah.
I feel like I shouldn't be fighting these guys. So whatever, man.
Yeah.
And he went out there and just ran through him.
Yeah, it was great.
Because that's exactly what that looked like.
Yeah, that's really what it did to look like. Dude, he hit that motherfucker so hard. I like Chris Dawkins.
I really like the Dawkins brothers. They're both really cool dudes and fun, and they're good fighters.
Yeah.
But boy,
they'll do great in the PFL. So Edmund Shabazian has had a great comeback fight. We hadn't seen him around in a while. He's fighting with Extreme Couture now. Chris Curtis and Joaquin Buckley. That was a fun fight to
Dude,
watch,
that was a
dude.
fun fight and a really good knockout.
Yeah, like I mean,
Very good
I don't
knockout.
know what the fuck the ref was thinking whenever he went out the first time. And then like Chris Curtis talked about that. He's like, he went out and I looked at he's like, and then I looked at the ref, I hit him again, and oh Jesus.
Yeah, I meant
Um
to send you that
and
picture
so
of Joaquin.
he hit him again, and he goes out again. The ref still doesn't stop it. Then Chris Curtis starts going off on him, and he goes out again. And Chris Curtis is like, that can't be good. There's no way that's good going out 3 times like that. But it was a great fight though. Joaquin's talking about going down to welterweight, and I think it's that
That
time.
yeah, that was the plan before this fight, but
Yeah,
this is what they offered him, so he went ahead and took it.
yeah. So
Unfortunate.
yeah, very. So Billy Quarantillo,
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm a fan of his. That was a good fight. I
yeah,
wish he had looked a little better throughout the fight,
yeah.
but it is what it
I
is.
guess
It's a good fight. Yeah.
Yeah, and so TJ Brown, great arm triangle win. Cameron Simon, that was a kind of a hard fight because Cameron Simon landed some illegal knees
Yeah.
on Steven Kozlow.
But Kozlov toughed it out.
Yeah, we'll give it to him, man. Round of applause. So
But yeah, that's
yeah,
UFC 282 and all its issues that came with it. Let us know what you think. What is the answer to judging? Please tell us. Don't just ignore the video about 5 minutes in. Just kidding. If you made it this long, please let us know what you think. Give us a follow, like, a subscribe, all that stuff. Tell your friends.